This is a diamond stylus, the hardest substance on Earth being dragged through a canyon of plastic. It sounds like it should be a recipe for disaster, right? I've even read the anecdote in many places that every time you play your record, you destroy it a little bit. It's a horror story. So let's pull back the curtains on that little chestnut and expose it for what it is. It's bullshit. Now, what exactly is Groovewear? Because that's what we're going to talk about today. Groovewear, in simple terms, or simply put, is the slow erosion of the vinyl record's groove surface as the stylus tracks through it time after time after time. But here's the thing. Vinyl is surprisingly tough. It's also somewhat of an elastic material. So when everything is set up right, the stylus can trace those grooves a countless number of times without causing any real harm. That doesn't mean there's never a problem, though. Now, if you've ever bought a used record, brought it home, cleaned it up, and put it on your turntable, and it sounded a bit fuzzy, especially maybe in the highs, maybe a little sibilant at times, it could be Groovewear. It could be because it was either played previously on a turntable that wasn't properly set up or a very cheap turntable. You just never know what you're going to get when you buy a used record. Unfortunately, a used record does not come with a card that details, every owner that's ever played it and every system it's ever been played on and the quality of that system. There is good news, though. Groovewear is entirely preventable on your system. You can keep playing those records for hundreds of times, I promise you. Let's start with this. Tracking force. This one is actually quite simple, but it needs addressing. Every cartridge has a recommended range, maybe something like 1.5 to 2 grams, and sticking to that range is important. You might think that setting the VTF as too heavy would be a danger, right? All that pressure and all that force gradually grinding the vinyl away as the stylus goes through it. Well, you're not wrong, but there's another thing to be wary of. Some folks think that setting the VTF to a lighter force, one that's below the minimum set by the manufacturer, is a good thing, that it prevents that groove wear. But that's a problem in itself. When the tracking force is too light, the stylus doesn't sit securely in the groove. It can actually bounce around. And when you think about it, if it's bouncing around, it's going from side to side, hitting one groove wall or the other. And that bouncing and kind of like chattering can do more damage than a stylus that's tracking a little bit on the heavy side. And to get it right, just check out the turntable's manual. It'll show you how to balance your tonearm and use the counterweight to dial in the force that the cartridge manufacturer recommends. There are even some great videos out there here on YouTube that will show you the same thing and how to do it. Always check out what the folks who made the cartridge recommend for the vertical tracking force. I used this one from Riverstone Audio. I really like it. I know a lot of people use it. It's very reliable. It takes all the guesswork out of it. And this next one is one that causes a lot of turntable owners anxiety. Alignment. I used to hate even thinking about this because it can be intimidating, but it's really not hard to get it right. The basic idea is really simple. You just want to have your stylus aligned so it's perfectly tracking that groove in the center. If it's a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right, you're going to lose some detail. You're going to lose some of that stereo imaging. And also, if your stylus is continuously tracking on one side more than the other, you could end up with some groove wear. All you need is one of these. This is a protractor. It only takes a few minutes. And getting it right when you install a new cartridge and align it right is probably the best investment in time you can make, especially for the health of your collection. My all-time favorite tool is this one. This is the Wally Tractor from Wham Engineering. Using this thing is guaranteed to get that alignment right. The next one is a little bit trickier. Anti-skate. Working hand in hand with vertical tracking force is anti-skate. As the record spins, there's a natural force that wants to pull the tonearm towards the center of the record. The anti-skate applies a tiny bit of outward force to counteract that pull. Now, keeping the stylus perfectly centered So it applies equal pressure is what you're going for. You want it to be equal pressure to both the left and the right channel walls of the groove. If your anti-skate is way off, you're back to what we talked about earlier, where you're having uneven wear on one side or the other. An easy rule of thumb for most turntables out there is to set your anti-skate to the exact same number as the vertical tracking force. So if you set your vertical tracking force to say 1.5, that's what you'll set your anti-skate to. It's not perfect. It really isn't, but it's at least in the right ballpark and you can start out on the right foot. I use this. This is the Wally Skater, again, from WAM Engineering. Now, this is not an ad for WAM Engineering. I've had these tools for about a year or so now. They're indispensable to me. I only call them out because if you can get your hands on these, maybe save up a bit and then purchase them, you won't be sorry, especially if you're a serious collector and serious about your system. WAM Engineering's mission is to get as much detail as humanly possible out of the groove, so they make tools like these to help us get there. And that brings us to the fourth and actually the most important part of this whole equation, that being the stylus. Your stylus or needle, if you want to call it that, is where the rubber meets the road. And not all styli are created equal. There are different shapes for different use cases. Cheaper styli are often conical or spherical. More advanced shapes like the Shibata or the Microline have a larger contact path inside the groove. Now, why does that matter? Because spreading the tracking force over a larger area reduces the chance of putting too much pressure at any single point. It's actually gentler on your records. So when you upgrade your stylus, you're not only getting better sound, you're actually preserving your records. Now, let's just take a quick minute to go over some shapes. At the low end, there's the conical or spherical stylus. They're forgiving and inexpensive, but they touch a tiny point in the groove wall and they can struggle with overall detail. Elliptical styli ride a bit deeper and trace higher frequencies better. Advanced designs like the Shibata and Microline designs spread the force over a long, narrow patch. That leads to the ultimate in clarity and detail. There are others, but I'll stop right there. Let's talk for a bit about lifespan. I'd advise changing a conical or elliptical stylus after around 500 hours. For Shibata and Microline, you can probably get 1,000, maybe 1,500 hours out of it. Now, these are ballpark figures. If you set your VTF right and keep your records clean, your stylus will last longer. If you listen to records, say, 1 hour to 2 hours a day, every day of the year, then you can probably count on changing that stylus every couple of years. And yes, contrary to what I hear from folks who don't do their research, a diamond stylus will wear down. It may be called the hardest substance on Earth, but everything wears down over time. We live in an entropic universe. Friction will reshape your stylus. As a cheap plug, I did create a stylus tracking app to track how many hours are on your stylus. It's currently only available for the iPhone. Sorry about that for people who use Android. I just don't know much about Androids, never developed for them. So, what happens when your stylus does wear down? Will it ruin your records? I always thought so. I bet 99% of the time, if you ask that question online, you're going to get the answer, hell yes, it does. I always thought that. I'm no longer in that camp anymore. What you'll lose with a worn down stylus is music and detail. J.R. Boyclair from WAM Engineering actually released a video recently dispelling that myth, and I'll put a link to that video in the description. It's really worth checking out. I'd also recommend subscribing to his channel. Every time I watch a video that JR puts out, I learn something new. I learn something invaluable. And finally, how about a couple of quick common sense things that will help preserve your records? Keep everything clean. Dust and dirt in your groove will act like sandpaper to your stylus. A quick swipe with a carbon fiber brush or anti-static brush before you play a record helps tremendously. And keep your stylus clean. You wouldn't believe the gunk that can build up on that tiny tip. A clean stylus in a clean groove is a happy, healthy, and quiet groove. Handling records. Handle your records by the edges. Don't do this. This is just a demo record that I've used for years when I do these type of things. So yeah, any grease or oils that are on your fingers are going to get in those grooves, and that is going to attract dust. It's going to keep the dust there, and that dust will build up. And over time, it's just going to form a hard little surface in the groove. That's not going to help your stylus. This is a physical medium, so it requires a gentle touch. Use that cueing lever. Be gentle. It all boils down to this. Groovewear is not some boogeyman waiting in the shadows to destroy your record collection. The problem only arises with neglect or bad setup. If you take a little time to set your tracking force, dial in your anti-skate, keep your records clean, change your stylus every now and then, make sure that your stylus is clean, you have nothing to worry about. Records are a lot tougher than you think they are. They're made to be played and to be enjoyed. And that's about it. If you thought this information was helpful in any way, please like and subscribe. And really, thank you for watching. I also have a newsletter. It's free to join, comes out once a week. And until next time, take care of yourself and enjoy your records. I'll see you soon.